coffee shop. At the coffee shop, you bought a coffee. You put your hand on the counter. You may have got a cold drink from a convenience store and drunk that drink from a straw. You may have used a public restroom in the courthouse, touched the faucet, touched the lavatory. You may have shaken hands with another member of the jury. What we're going to learn over the course of the next couple of weeks is that in each of those acts, we leave a trail. We leave a trail of our biologic specimens. We leave trails of DNA. In addition to the trails that we leave, we also cross trails of other people that we meet throughout the course of the day. Someone who may have coughed, put their hand on a bus handle, may have sneezed, may have spilled something on a bench, may have brushed up against us, shaken our hand. In each of those instances, not only do we have a trail, but they have left a trail that intersects with us. What you're going to hear over the next couple of weeks is that those trails tell us what we are, but they don't necessarily tell us who we are or where we've been. There's no question that the Cedar Rapids Police Department and law enforcement in the investigation of this horrifying death were determined and pursued leads best available to them at the time. And no one is going to be critical of that determination. And no one in this courtroom at any point is going to be critical of Michelle Martinko. There was no reason for her to die, and there was no reason for any violence to be inflicted upon her. But the evidence is also going to show that at some stage this investigation was diverted. It too took a trail. And we're going to demonstrate to you that we believe that the diversion of this trail led to investigators believing that Jerry Burns was the killer of Michelle Martinko. In fact, when he was questioned in December of 2018 on the anniversary of Michelle Martinko's death, it should come as no surprise that he could not say where he was on that date in 1979 at a well-traveled mall, a busy commercial area in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. In 1979, the evidence will show that Jerry Burns was a married man. He was living with his wife and his 2 young children in Manchester, Iowa, the town in which he was born and raised, where his family had farmed, where he had eventually established a successful business. He could not identify where he had been in 1979, and the construction, given that he made some admission en route from Manchester, Iowa to Cedar Rapids, is a spin that is not accurate. Even though we are going to hear, as you've heard this morning, some dramatic statistics about DNA and correlations of DNA and consistency of DNA and DNA that cannot be eliminated, those statistics, men and women of the jury, are only as accurate as the investigation on which they are founded. They're only as accurate as the integrity of that investigation, the consistency and the care with which the items that DNA was collected from were handled throughout the course of the past 40 years. They can tell us a lot about what can be discerned and what cannot be discerned. But it's going to be very important for us throughout the course of this trial to be sure to recognize what those numbers mean and, more importantly, what they do not mean. We're going to have a distinguished forensic scientist who's going to help you and help us not only understand what those numbers mean, but also about the integrity of the investigation from which those numbers were drawn. You're going to hear, and our expert will demonstrate to you, an expert not only on genetic science and genetic investigation, but also on crime scene investigation, that the handling of the evidence, the likelihood of the intersection of trails of complete strangers demonstrate that the trails do not inevitably lead to Jerry Lynn Burns. Those divergent paths, I repeat, do not inevitably lead to Jerry Lynn Burns. And those scientific paths also demonstrate why it cannot be said not only that Jerry Lynn Burns was not the killer of Michelle Martinko, but they will also demonstrate that Jerry Lynn Burns is not guilty of the killing of Michelle Martinko.
We're going to recess for 10 minutes, so stay relatively close, but we'll let you get up and stretch for a bit, and we'll be ready to return and begin hearing the evidence in the case. So 10 minutes, please. We'll be in recess. Please remember the admonition that I read to you yesterday. Keep an open mind. You're just about to begin to hear the evidence in the case.
Please rise for the jury. You can leave your notebooks on your chairs.